We totally kind of redid and rethought our entire outbound sales strategy. We brought that under marketing and really changed what was a very manual, human-led process to an data orchestration process. I think people grew up in the 2010s on this playbook that was, kind of coined the predictable revenue playbook for SaaS. You just can't do the same things you did 3, 5, 10 years ago. And I can also say from like a people perspective, we used to have humans full time doing multiple. I think it was up to a 5-person inbound SDR team that's now completely reshifted their attention to more targeted ABM outreach. And so it's all done by AI now.
Generating pipeline today in 2026 and beyond is arguably the hardest it's ever been in the last decade. The old playbooks no longer work. There's so many things that goes without saying that are changing with AI. I've certainly talked a lot about it here, but this is arguably one of the most valuable conversations I've ever had on the channel with the CEO of Sendoso, a Bay Area tech company doing over $100 million in revenue. And also for you guys, whether you are a rep or a founder trying to build a modern go-to-market strategy, Kris was also a frontline sales rep for almost a decade before then starting Sendoso and becoming the CEO. A big thank you to Kris and the Sendoso team for taking time to not just share strategies and high-level advice. We talk anything from how it's going to impact headcount, what his best reps are doing, and how you, if you're a rep today, can future-proof your skill set. We talk about the actual tools that he's using that have replaced workflows that used to take 5 people, what that means for that talent, and how he's reallocating it. And again, a big thank you to Kris for taking the time. Whether you're a rep, whether you're a founder, whether you're a business owner trying to up your game, this is the most value-packed episode I think we've had in a long time. Hey everybody, excited to be here with Kris Rudeegraap, who is the CEO of Sendoso. Not only are you a founder of a company that directly works with go-to-market strategies, and we're going to dive into everything related to modern go-to-market in 2026 and beyond, but also you were actually an account executive before starting Sendoso yourself. So you've seen it both as an individual contributor and now a CEO selling to tons of different companies all over the country and presumably world as well. Before I get ahead of myself, Kris, if you want to introduce yourself, feel free to share a little bit about your background and set the stage for us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, Eric. So I'm born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. As you alluded to, I started Sendoso about 9 years ago. Prior to that, spent about a decade in software sales myself. And I really saw firsthand how impactful and powerful it is to send someone a handwritten note or a personalized gift. It was just a nightmare packing boxes, run into the mailbox, FedEx, tracking links, expense reports. And so I dreamed of a better way to operationalize the fact that you can send things to people to build better relationships. And that's how Sendoso was born. And we've scaled to hundreds of millions of dollars in gifts spent, hundreds of thousands of sellers and marketers using the platform to build pipeline, close deals faster.
Yeah, that's awesome. And definitely what we're going to get into is what you're seeing working on the front lines. Before we jump to what is actually working, I would love from your vantage point for you to maybe define the problem. So much has changed in GTM, even in the last 2 to 3 years, let alone the last 5 to 10. What are you seeing right now are some of the biggest struggles or challenges that the modern go-to-market team is actually facing when it comes to generating predictable pipeline?
Yeah. So what we're seeing, both talking to my peers, seeing from customers, seeing firsthand, I think the biggest thing is just the shift of playbook mindsets. I think people grew up in the 2010s on this playbook that was, kind of coined the predictable revenue playbook for SaaS. And a lot of those channels, you just can't do the same things you did, 3, 5, 10 years ago. And so some marketing and sales leaders have adopted it, but a lot haven't. So I think it comes down to how do you rethink what the playbook should be? How do you rethink what the buyer's journey should be? How do you rethink your ICP? So I think the playbook is the biggest trend in this pipeline crisis I'm seeing. Aside from that, I think AI is kind of throwing a curveball in there. Some people are using it wisely. Some people it's a buzzword and it's not getting off the ground or it's a wasted effort. So I think having a strong AI strategy is also another area that I think is causing some problems as well in the pipeline area.
Yeah, no, great perspective. And maybe if it's okay, diving a little bit deeper into that, especially when you're talking about kind of the 2010 rinse and repeat revenue playbook. What is maybe an example or two of something that you see marketers holding on to that's an outdated practice, or what's a very common thing that, in your opinion, either outright doesn't work anymore or is not as effective as it used to be?
Yeah, so I think email marketing or email outbound by itself, I think is something that's not as effective. I think that's probably the least effective as I seeing in channels. Now, I think coupled with, 2, 3, 4, 5 other channels, so emailing and cold calling and social selling and direct mailing, then that really boils up better opportunities and booking meetings, etc. But I think historically there was these like spray and pray on top of a single channel. And if you're not multi-channel, I think you're dead in the water.
Yeah. And I know we were talking a lot about, and I hope you don't mind me doing like 20
Yeah,
questions here because we're getting
let's
deep
do
into
it.
this. But I know one of the things you were talking a lot about is your broader adoption of AI. I mean, obviously a common tool right now is something like Clay, but maybe even setting the stage, I know we've kind of defined the overall problem. Maybe we can do this piecewise or however you think is appropriate without boiling the ocean, but using AI, right? What is a newer aspect of the modern go-to-market playbook, implementing AI, whether it's tooling, whether it's even just a high-level block diagram? What would you say is how you are approaching it now with all the tools, with all the modern updates of AI and beyond?
So we're deploying AI in a lot of different ways that I think is really cool and creative. And as you mentioned to Clay, we totally kind of redid and rethought our entire outbound sales strategy. We brought that under marketing and really changed what was a very manual, human-led process to an data orchestration process on top of Clay, using AI to orchestrate data, using AI to really write personalized messages that are one-to-one. Much better than like the previous personalization era, which was like hi first name, and it was inserting variables, but it's like inserting custom sentences and based on a lot of other data sets. So I think AI for outbound has been one of the biggest things for us. Outside of that, using AI to think about your ICP, craft product marketing messaging, I think can really help. Looking at AI for your content strategy. We've used AI to think through some of the way that we're going to approach like the AI SEO or GEO and what people are calling that. Really trying to infuse and empower, all of our sales and marketing teams to use AI better. Our sales teams have adopted some new tools like Win. We use Gong. There's some other tools too that capture conversations and fill in Salesforce fields, which was kind of a painful process that always was last on the to-do list for sales reps. But now that we have such rich data in our CRM, we can take more automated actions there afterwards with AI. So yeah, we're all in on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Probing into as well, like one of the things that I've seen, at least using some AI tools, is I've seen different levels of this where when AI first came out and you had personalized, like I think the V1 of this was it could scan like a LinkedIn profile, pull out a random stat, and then make a custom intro email, which worked. At least I was like, oh, that's cool for about a month. And then everybody started doing it. So to the extent that you're able, obviously not looking for trade secrets, I guess a couple questions on the outbounding front. One, is there, any kind of secret to this custom messaging or, any, maybe not a variable, but parameters that you're feeding it that is allowing it to have super high quality messages? We'll start there and then look at a few other spots.
Yeah, so there's two different ways we're doing it. One is we're using a tool called Octave. It's Octave HQ, which does some of our ICP product marketing and bringing that into some of the messaging we're writing and crafting for emails. But just on the Clay tool itself, integrating in a column for OpenAI and bringing that in and saying, hey, based on, column A and B with this job title, knowing that they want to solve this problem on Sendoso, like write a sentence on why it would be beneficial for them to use Sendoso to solve this problem. And then OpenAI will write us, one sentence that will then be inserted in. And it's much better than, the historical way of just, blanketing everyone thinking it's going to be the same exact, problem they're going to solve for. So I think that's one way. Even things like, using job change and using AI to rewrite the message saying, hey, your colleague, XYZ and colleague XYZ used us before. We think you could use this again. And again, that's something that just gets rewritten by AI. And sometimes taking all these different data from across the web, across our CRM, feeding it into AI to like write a better sentence versus just like variable, data. And like, I think that's been one way we've done really well. That's been super helpful for personalization.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would say another hot topic that I've seen is where maybe it depends on your proficiency with a tool like Clay or something of that nature. Is there a threshold in your mind of, call it like quality of lead, where if someone comes in and does like a pricing request, are you trusting AI to handle those tier one leads and set up a demo? Or is there a point in your mind where it's like it does make sense to have a human handle that interaction end to end? I'm curious if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so we've experimented with AI from an inbound perspective, where AI will take like inbound web chats and some of our inbound demo requests to further qualify and do a better job of figuring out which rep they should go to, which segment, so that's something we've been using AI to do some qualifications. And then we're going to start we're rolling out a new program where website visitors and prospects who are on our web and interacting that don't end up booking a meeting, we're going to then use AI to do nurture programs just on those segment as well, trying to convert more of those like lookers into demo requesters too.
Nice. And is that via more like banner ads and kind of cookie tracking, or is that actually trying to identify who that individual is and going after them directly?
Yeah, who it is as an individual, going after them directly. And on top of that, doing more company-based ad retargeting, cooking to do more ABM ads as well, and trying to expand the buying committee there too. So I think as much as we can do to the individual, but then if we know that account is showing intent or signals of interest, then how do we blanket that account more and start going after others at that account too that are kind of our ICP?
Nice. That's awesome. And again, to the extent that you're able to share, I am curious, one, if there's other tools or workflows that you think are beneficial that you haven't mentioned, I'd love to hear it. But also just for anyone out there, I mean, this all sounds good, apologies for being a skeptic, but do you have any type of tangible result of even, hey, after 6 to 12 months of doing this, we've increased this metric by this much, or we've had this tangible outcome because of all of this implementation?
Yeah, on the tooling front, Qualified's a tool we're using for some of the inbound AI for SDR or for qualifying, and then also going to be using that for the nurture of conversion. Using Warmly, our B2B, 6sense for some web site de-anonymization data and signals and intent there. So that's kind of the tooling there. I don't know the exact numbers of what the conversion looked like, but I can say we've been doing this for multiple years and it's been working and we're investing more into it. I can also say from like a people perspective, we used to have humans full-time doing multiple, I think it was up to a 5-person inbound SDR team that's now completely reshifted their attention to more targeted ABM outreach. And so it's all done by AI now.
Well, so I guess that was honestly my next question. It's a great lead in too. Maybe looking at the SDR role first. I mean, do you see a world where, what is the outcome 5 to 10 years from now? Is it completely eliminated? Are we using, a 10th of the headcount that we need? I'm just curious your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a role that's going to be higher, elevated a bit higher in terms of the technical difficulties of that role. I think there's going to be a bit more senior type of folks running that role. I think historically, because there were so many boring manual tasks involved, it ended up becoming like a fresh out of college role. But I think as you think about like a go-to-market engineer, or you think about a much more savvy, sales development rep that is using AI and automations and maybe technically using Claude Code or Clay, and then they'll have to be, a bit more senior in their career. And I think you'll have stronger, technically savvy SDRs that can do way more, maybe as much as 5 SDRs of yesteryear, maybe 10 with technology, and you'll see smaller teams that can do much more outputs at scale. So that's what I would bank on for the future. I think also there's a need for continuing to build human connection, human relationships, and things like cold calling, social selling, seeing people at events, those types of activities. Just, you can't have a robot do all those, or AI. And so I think there'll also be a place for that too, especially in the super high value enterprise space.
Yeah. And obviously this ties in well to what you do at Sendoso, whether
Yeah,
it comes to direct mail and gifting. If there's
exactly.
ways in your go-to-market function, you think how that fits into it, how do you stand out? I'm just curious from your perspective, specifically at Sendoso, what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we drink our own champagne. It's one of our best performing channels by far. Also, just because we do so much direct mail and gifting. But again, it's just another way to pattern disrupt, to get grab someone's attention, get on their desk, get on their doorstep. And so we're integrating direct mail and gifting into almost all of our outbound campaigns, into our marketing demand gen programs, field events. People demo show rates, even through the funnel. Our account management team's using it for expansion. So, again, I think it's just another tool in your tool belt when you're trying to build a relationship or get in front of a prospect.
That was great perspective. And obviously you've been doing this for almost 10 years, specifically at Sendoso. Even, at least outside looking in, it's not a strategy that I have implemented that much myself. I've definitely sent tailored gifts to existing accounts and things of that nature. To me, it seems like something that is kind of the same. Like you send mail, send gifts, things of that nature. Has that changed at all? What does that look like now in 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, the ironic thing about direct mail is, like, in the 90s, it was one of the most popular channels there was. And then I think in the 2000s, with digital and email coming out, the pendulum just shifted completely opposite. People are like, so it's easy, it's cost effective to do email, so why would I ever send another direct mail or a gift out? And then I think in the last 5-ish years, even so when I started the company 9 years ago, people were still like, I'd be happy to try direct mail gifting. It's just hard. So we took out all the operational complexities of supply chain, packing boxes, finding addresses, shipping things, expensing them, reporting on them, all those things. And so I think the shift is, like, it's almost as easy to send an email as it is to send a direct mailer. And then with AI, it's really helped us with refining kind of the personalization layer too. So for our clients too, we can say, hey, you should send to this person instead of this person, or hey, let's use AI to craft the message, or let's use AI to get their mailing address, and seeing that this person works at home and not in the office, so here's their home mailing address. So all those things just lower the barriers of what used to be just such a hard, complex channel. And I think that's making it easier for sellers to say, hey, I'm going to incorporate this in and see results.
I've gotten highly, highly specific gifts for specific customers of mine that are typically over some spending threshold that my company is like, okay, like, makes sense, go ahead and send them whatever. Let's say I've never done this before and I'm really struggling to generate pipeline, and or I'm just interested in this new channel. How do you even begin to incorporate this seamlessly into your go-to-market in 2026?
Yeah, I'll give you kind of like the manual way, and then I can just sprinkle at the end that, like, all that could be completely automated with Sendoso. But for those listeners that don't have Sendoso, I'll go that route. So I think versus, like, you want to use direct mail in your marketing outreach, which is more of a, hey, do you want to have your targeted ABM list, and that these are the 2,000 accounts you're going after, or the 200, and here's the 5 people at each account. So you have a short list of people that you want to engage with. I think that's probably one of the easiest ways to start with, is thinking about, like, your target list. And then you can either decide, do I want to do the research and figure out what does Kris like, what does Eric like, what's the right message, and again, we can automate all that, or you could blanket it and say, hey, I'm going to come up with a unique campaign that every person on this list could like, that's maybe more personalized to my brand or my message. Some few examples. A payment processing company recently sent out these custom Lego kit where you could build the payment terminal. Or another fintech company sent out a custom branded pickleball paddles. So another company sent out bottles of wine with a locked combo code, and saying, like, you want to unlock the code, and unlock new revenue streams, blah, blah, blah. So some of it could be creative and fun. And I think coming up with the creative aspect of it is also something, again, we take off the table for you. But if you were a savvy marketer or salesperson, you could come up with some of those campaigns. And then it's really just mailing it out and tracking links, tying it into a Salesforce or HubSpot campaign or CRM campaign, so you could see the efficacy of it. It is a lot of work, but the benefit of the extra effort is that, and the extra cost, aside from just sending another free email, is that because there's these baked in kind of guardrails or effort, it's just less saturated. Then it'll be almost impossible to completely saturate, because no one's going to be spending infinite dollars on these mailers. And honestly, I think you can probably attest to, it's like, how many emails do you get today versus how many, boxes showed up on your front doorstep. And, we've seen some reporting where it's like 5 to 9 times better response rates from direct mail than just an email alone.
Wow.
So
yeah, I was going to say that's literally where my mind goes is I'm not kidding when I say I'm sure it's 10 times worse for you. Every morning I wake up from like 7 to 9 a.m. I get 40 emails, cold emails attempting to reach out. So I'm sure you've seen the same, but
and again, I see the cold emails, but if you can couple cold emails with direct mail, with social selling, with cold calling, I think that's the recipe for success. And I think, the top sellers, the top marketers know that and are putting in the effort. And the lazy marketers and the lazy sellers who are just trying one channel, 1 or 2 channels, are the ones that aren't seeing the results. So while it's not like rocket science, it's more of just like effort to put in. And I think effort pays.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And maybe going towards a close, I think one of the things you said earlier that really stood out and I think is very true and also appeals to people who watch this channel is we obviously have a lot of sales reps and or early stage companies. And I know you've kind of shifted your thoughts on maybe it makes sense in 2026 and beyond to have more of that sales focused founder as opposed to 2010 was more that product expert, someone who could actually build something. Maybe 2 questions here if it's fair of one, hey, I'm that sales rep who wants to start my own company, or maybe I'm that early stage tech company, AI company. What do you even think about if it's not too wide open of a question and just fundamental building your initial strategy? Where would you even start, whether it's tooling, workflows, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, I'll answer that question in 2 different ways. One is I think it's a better time than ever to be a sales leader, marketing leader, starting a company, because I think that go-to-market background, one, is going to make it easier for you to get your first 1, first 10, first 100 customers. Because go-to-market leaders are not scared to go knock on doors and figure out how to find a buyer. For recruiting too, when you're recruiting your first employee, you're likely recruiting somebody away from a good-paying job at a well-known company to go take a bet on you, and so that takes sales effort. And then even if you want to go raise VC money, you're going to go pitch 20 VCs and get like 19 no's perhaps. And again, the sales acumen you learn from pitching, selling, not taking no for an answer or not being discouraged by a no and going on with your day is really helpful to being a founder. So I love seeing the shift to more go-to-market backgrounded founders. And so I think if you're a go-to-market background founders, the second part of your question is easy. What kind of go-to-market do you need to do to get going in the early years? But if you're more of a product or engineering focused founder, I think the easiest thing is like, who do you think should be your buyer and how do you shortlist like the top, call it 20, 50 customers you want to get. If you had your ideal customer list, go find a tool that, you can enrich those and find the right contacts, whether, Clay might be a little overkill in the very early, but you could be using a tool like Apollo or Ample Market to go in, get that contact information, maybe Zoom info. And then from there, it's just like testing, messaging, what works, using as many channels as you can. I don't think that is prohibitive of the early years. You could still direct mail, you could still cold call, you could still email, you could still go to events, and just try to break through and solve someone's problems. And I think at the end of the day, people always have problems, and if you can solve them, you'll grab the attention.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure my next question, I think I'm going to try and pare this down so it's not boiling the ocean. But one, that's great feedback for people getting started and really well said. I was going to ask more on the, hey, you're Snowflake right now, right?
Yeah.
Like what kind of changes would you implement to your go-to-market? I actually kind of want to reverse the question for a lot of the sales reps that listen to this channel.
Yeah.
I'm a sales rep at a huge company.
Yeah.
They are making and investing tons into go-to-market AI tools. Whether it's, speaking from your own company or just what you're seeing in the marketplace, how do I as a rep retain my value? How do I still kind of create a defensible skill set when, again, I know a lot of it's fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but it's hard to say 5 years from now that things will look anywhere close to what they look like now. How do I as a rep keep my value? What are the highest value things I should even focus on? How do I stand out amongst all the chaos and noise right now?
Yeah, great questions. I'll go down a couple paths to answer that. One is I think your network is still king. So making sure that you continue to build relationships with people you've sold to in the past, people you're selling to now, go on, even as simple as going on LinkedIn and just keeping in touch, sending holiday cards. I think your network is your net worth at times. and that you cannot be taken away with AI. In fact, AI maybe is doing the opposite to your relationships at times and making it easy to spray and pray, but making it harder to build those good relationships. So I'd say don't give up on that. Go out to more dinners, meet more clients, meet more prospects, build that rapport. I think that's number one. Two, I think is don't think of AI as an enemy, but think of it as a partner and double down on learning. I think some of these new AI tools feel like complex, even things like Claude Code. Maybe go in there and try to figure that out for a weekend. Go figure out some of these newer AI tools and become an expert there. And I think at some organizations, they have a beta group that's going to beta test the new pilot of an AI tool. Sign up for that. Be the first one there. Be the expert, and then have people come to you, or go to the cool AI tools that maybe you don't have yet and try to demo them. Learn what's out there. I think if you're able to go and be a thought leader there, I think that can be helpful. Even going as far as maybe you're at a big company and you want to start your own podcast, create a newsletter or something like that, just to get your voice out there, so that you have an excuse and a reason to go learn more. So I think, if you're, learning about these new tools, and then you're going to be more successful there. Besides that, I think the final thing is maybe just like, some of the fundamentals AI will not change. So you might have some fancy new sellers in here that, are, AI first, but it doesn't mean that, your skill set that you've learned over the last couple of decades isn't going to be valuable to close more deals.
Kris, this is great. Tons of questions. Maybe we do a part 2 in the future, and let us know in the comments below if that's something you guys want. If you have any questions, obviously, Kris, appreciate you reaching out to me. To the extent, I'm sure you might have some interest after this video of people that have questions. Is there a best way that you would prefer they reach out to you or get in contact with you?
Yeah, I would love to connect with people on LinkedIn, follow my content, send me an email directly. It's Kris, Kris, @sendoso.com. Would love to chat with you, whether you're a founder or wanting to be a founder, or whether you're, a seasoned sales executive and you want to, share thoughts. Always love networking with more people. And then if you want to sign up for Sendoso, if that's interesting to you, shoot me a DM there. Happy to hook you up with some, discount offer or even some free account balance to get going.
Oh, awesome. Well, appreciate it, Kris. This is great, and looking forward to it. Good luck in 2026.
Thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate it.
Huge thank you again to Kris and the Sendoso team for taking the time. And by the way, if you're new here, feel free to like and subscribe for future episodes where we dive deep into AI, go-to-market, anything with tech and tech sales. And also, we are working directly with some extremely early stage AI founders that are trying to build their go-to-market for the first time. So again, whether it's videos here or you want to reach out to our team, there is more information below. Good luck out there in 2026. We'll see you guys in the next one.